Let's go for the actual score. Europa natural
Greetings, friends. How are you doing this evening? Welcome to Europa Natural Law. If you don't know, if you've not watched us before, we're part of the natural law movement that's global, that's nascent, that's beginning, that's going to change the world. Join us, get in, be an early adopter, because there's very few of us so far. We want more, and that's why we're doing this show, to reach out. So if you are watching or on YouTube, give us a like or comment, anything like that. Comments are going to come up on the screen, ideally this week, hopefully, if all the tech works. So we will be able to respond to comments live. So welcome to everyone who's joining us today. I'm Nemo Jones in Devon, Albion, and let's go around and just give a quick introduction of everyone. Derek, we're still not hearing you. So we've had some tech issues with Derek, so we'll just go straight on to Oscar for now.
Yeah, hey, I'm Oscar, and I'm in Denmark.
Hi, yeah, I'm Yvonne, and I'm from Norfolk, and I'm going to say the same as you, Nemo, Albion. I'm not going to say the UK anymore. All right.
Hi there, I'm Tommy. I'm from Glasgow, Scotland, also Albion.
Chris Nelson from Canada.
Great. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. For joining me. Thanks for being here. Derek, are you there?
Oh yeah, you can hear me? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Awakening Mind, got my YouTube channel of 12 years mixing conscious hip hop, and been doing this from France for a long time. And bonjour out there.
Right, I forgot to do the introduction, the plugging thing. Yeah, so I have my you can find all my stuff at nemojones.com, all my music and all my blog, and that kind of stuff. And Chris, do you want to just plug your stuff as well?
As you see, evolveconsciousness.org. Find everything there. Takes you to YouTube or Odyssey, whichever you prefer to take in the audio, visual, video content, or there's a lot of articles on the site and infographics, tons of infographics.
Yeah, great, good stuff. Okay, so some other housekeeping stuff is that coming up we have the Funnel 4 conference, which is Freedom Under Natural Law. So that's a lot of great content about natural law and all kinds of related subjects. So would someone like to just give a little bit about that? I know it's on the 22nd and the 23rd of February online, and it's free, I believe. So sorry, I can't remember if Derek or Chris was going to give a little chat about that.
We could both throw in a quick little word. Yeah, it's the technically third time I've been involved with the Funnel folks, Freedom Under Natural Law, hosted by Chris Jansen, Leslie Powers, Will Keller. Crip Rick is going to be helping out as well, and Tony Mancuso, and it's going to be great.
Cool. Great. Yes, I know Tony. I did an interview with him years ago, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Chris Nelson's going to rock that shit too.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so as I said, comments. If you put comments onto YouTube, we should see them on screen. And Oscar's got a little announcement as well.
Yeah, I wanted to announce that. I don't know. Can you hear me all right? Yeah, that this Thursday at 7:30 European Central Time, which is an hour later than Greenwich time. Um, there's going to be an informal discussion on the Telegram group that people are most welcome to join or just listen in if they want. And yeah, I hope people wanna participate in that. It's not really gonna be like a specific framework or a specific topic. So any question or thing that people want to talk about is most welcome. That was it. Oh, and yeah, it's probably gonna last maybe 2 hours. I would say approximately 1 hour to 2 hours. So it's just gonna be an evening chit chat. That was it.
Yeah, so that's on the Telegram group, and you're welcome to join via the link that's in the description. Just to hang out anyway. We're talking. There's lots of discussion going on there about natural law and related subjects. Okay, so on to the subject for this week, which is free will and response. Well, I've called it responsibility, as in the two separate words. And this is obviously a pretty central topic. It's quite a amazing topic, I think. The more that I think about it, I mean, I'm writing about this at the moment, and it's kind of all encompassing, and it really gets to the core of what it is to be alive, I think, and what it is to make choices and also to be moral. You know, it's like whether we go along with our conditioning and you know, there is a deterministic element to like how we function in the world. I think, you know, there's a lot of conditioning, there's a lot of instinctive behavior and stuff, but then there's this potential to transform and to raise ourselves to a higher plane of existence, and to raise the world to a higher plane of existence. And it's really free will is sort of the key, the way that the thing that it's where we can choose to care, we can choose to try harder, we can choose to be courageous, and you know, these are all the things, the points of where we were writing about it on Telegram. I said it's where the rubber hits the road. It's where you actually have to engage with your karma, your kind of patterns, and say, actually, no, actually, I'm going to do something different. Actually, I'm going to push myself or push someone else, you know, to look at something differently and not follow the pattern of what's already pre-existing. So that's a little bit of an intro for me, and I'll just hand it on from there. But yeah, obviously it's a huge subject and we've got lots of us, so let's hand it on. No need to be a big lecture, you know, we can just be more discussional, I think, if that's a word.
Sure. Anyone want to take it away? I just want to throw it out just because, you know, for me, it's kind of like a past hot potato in my mind with this topic, because it can go in so many different ways and apply to so much, right? And I think, you know, fundamentally, people have a variety of ideas of what free will means, and and if we even live in a free will universe type of thing, which, you know, unfortunately, there's, you know, a lot of distortions and overlays of what people think is reality and what is being taught about it through fucking religion, or, you know, miseducation, if you will, throughout the eons. What the fuck is new, right? So have we had the free will choice to either believe in that or, you know, choose something else? Unfortunately, during really draconian times, not all that information was available, right? So folks might have been a little nescient to these universal principles and laws that we talk about a la natural law, and right. So yeah, sorry, Oscar. I see your comments, and Nemo. I don't see the comments coming from the Europa Natural Law chat. Unfortunately, we tried to set it up with Restream. It's like I have to be like the sole proprietor of this YouTube channel for me to like have it broadcast and like sync up 100%. Apparently, it sucks. But hey, I guess that's their free will choice, right? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, in regards to the title card, there comes great responsibility for our free will choices. I mean, like, yeah, you could think of, in terms of Aleister Crowley, like, do as that will, or whatever the hell. But nothing anyone does comes without fucking consequence. Meaning as well that no one is above the law. No one is above their karmic debt that they can accumulate, type of thing. So we can't shirk natural law and expect to get away with these things. Consequences. So if we just make sure our shit's fucking aligned and we're not causing harm to other people, we could be on our merry way, right? And we could evolve to better states, especially when everyone's acting in that sense in the aggregate, a la being objectively moral with yourself and other people, right? So yeah, free will has, I kind of see it as well as like the true state of anarchy, if you will, like without rulers. So that way, people are kind of left up to their own devices. But I think people really understand, especially on a deeper conscious level, that there is a lot of responsibility, and we do reap what we sow, and these types of things. Causality and cause and effect and whatever the heck. So I'm gonna pass it up to who's next.
I can, I guess I can start with some definitions. If you show the slides, this is, sorry, I have a cold, so I might have to mute and cough. This is from my presentation on true freedom. And I started off with some basic definitions. So when you get to freedom, part of the definition of freedom is free will. So free will, that's what we're talking about. When you're free, you're not in bondage. You're acting of one's own will. So you can have a will, but it doesn't mean you're going to be using it, because if you're not able to exercise it, then that's when you're in bondage. And the will is to determine by act of choice. So if you're capable of making choices, then you have a will, and then it's how free it is, whether it's being restricted like we currently have, where we have all these impositions that restrict our freedom through coercion and the threats of greater violence if we don't comply. And from the presentation on morality, this one is showing our 7 property rights, which you guys did last week. So life, free will, bodily integrity, or you call that well-being, sexual association, making decisions, standard property, and the security of your living domain. And so free will is where all the other ones are predicated from, except for obviously your body, because, well, you have to have a body to have a free will in it, because your free will isn't there if you don't have a body to use your will. So you have to have a body, and then your will is inside of your body. So the body comes first, but that's part of yourself, is your body and your psyche consciousness. And your psyche consciousness, that's where the will is, I guess you could say, situated. We don't really know where it is, but in terms of a material aspect of the body and an immaterial aspect of the psyche consciousness and the will. And so even but free will is is like central to it all, because even for your life to be taken, for you to authorize someone and say, okay, you can take my life, and then you consent to it. Consent and free will is violated for anything to be violated. So even though like it starts with your body and then inside of it is your free will, everything that comes afterwards, all your property, the violations for all your properties are based on free will. And for any of the properties to be violated, free will is automatically violated because you're not giving your consent. So you choose what to do with your property, and the loss to freely decide can be from immorality or theft or from an accident. I go into that in the presentation. That's just a delineation of two different types. And yeah, I'll just read something I have from my next presentation on the law of freedom. So that'll be the science, natural law, the science of morality, part 5. And has to do with karma and free will. And freedom is for free wills. Because you can, so like you can have a wind that can make a rock fall off a cliff, and free will can kick a rock off a cliff. But in my presentation, like in morality, I differentiate between a free will causal agent and a non-free will causal agent. So wind is a causal agent that made something happen, but it doesn't have free will. Versus animals do have free will, and human animals have more free will than other animals, and that's by our faculty of reason, our capacity to understand. We can understand more and make more decisions based on what we do understand, as opposed to not understanding as much and having less ability to make decisions that are even contrary to instinctual behavior, or even against instinctual behavior for betterment or like survival, and you can be altruistic. But free will is not a requirement of the law of gravity. It's accidental. So in the law of gravity, when you look at things, laws are things that are necessary. Free will is not part of the necessary aspect for the functionality of all laws. So free will, so the law of gravity is a physical law, but it doesn't require free will to be in operation. Prior to any free will existing in any body, any animal, there was the law of gravity in operation, because all it requires is mass, certain amount of mass and distance between things to create the attraction force. But the law of freedom is like a metaphysical law about freedom and requires free will to be present for it to be in operation. So if you don't have free wills, you won't have the demonstration, the demonstrability of the law of freedom. Whereas the law of gravity, you don't require free will. All that's required for it to manifest and be demonstrable is mass, a certain amount of mass and a certain distance from each other for it to demonstrate that attraction force. But the law of freedom, if you don't have beings with free will, then you can't demonstrate the law of freedom. And free will beings can create actions that create negative consequences for themselves alone, which is not evil. Say you kick something and you hurt your toe. Well, you hurt yourself, but that's not evil. Or you can create negative consequences for others. So if you kick someone in the face, well, that is evil because you injured them and they didn't consent for you. They didn't say, yeah, go ahead and kick me in the face. And so we can enslave ourselves or others, and that is a consequence created by free will. It's not the laws of the universe themselves creating that consequence of our enslavement. It requires the causal force of free will to create the behavior. So we are doing it to ourselves as the actions output into reality, which create the resulting consequential conditions. And free will behavior that affects human interaction dynamics alone, like creating evil or slavery, requires free will to counterbalance it. So laws alone won't do it for us. That is how I view things, that the laws will not bring a balance to our behavior because we created the behavior. Free will brought that into manifestation, and there's an initial causal consequence. Like if you kick a rock, well, the rock's going to move. And if you throw a rock, well, the rock's going to move. But when the rock hits someone else in the face because you threw it at their face, well, the way that person responds isn't dictated by the necessity of a law. They don't have to come at you and reciprocate harm. They don't have to talk to you. They don't have to do anything. That's all engaged by free will. So it's not the laws doing it, it's free will who are going to bring consequences for other free wills initiating that into reality. And our free will to apply negative karmic consequences is optional, not mandatory or necessary like a law would be. The law of freedom is making the negative karmic consequence of aggregate enslavement that we live under. So we are doing that. But the law of freedom is describing that as a necessary outcome from our condemnation of evil. So because we condone evil, we support it, we accept it, we tolerate it, and we standardize it and normalize it as part of our way of living, well, then that becomes the way things are in the aggregate because we all accept it. And if we all didn't accept it, it wouldn't be that way. So the law of freedom isn't creating that. It's us that create it, but it goes through, that's how reality works. And the law of freedom is just describing how reality is working. So absent free will, reality operates by true principles. Free will falsity can be accepted, leading to creation of false behaviors to make reality contain unreal or false elements that shouldn't be there, such as the world we have now, where we're creating things that harm us, the toxins and poisons. We create a system of enslavement, a system of control that doesn't need to be there. But we're accepting these false ideas, and then we're creating behaviors or accepting the behaviors of others that allow that to be the condition in reality. So reality has natural processes. Don't introduce falsity into reality. So the falsity that is created into reality only comes from free wills. Free will agents, like animals, have that capacity, and us the most of all, because we have reasoning and imagination, and we can come up with bullshit, and then we can live out and act out that bullshit, and then it creates a reality of bullshit. Reality itself doesn't take care of correcting our false behavior that we created. So that's what I was talking about with the rock in the face. There can be causal dynamics where, if we blow up a bunch of nukes, we create nukes, and then we blow them all up. Well, the causality inherent in reality and how reality functions, well, reality is going to correct our behavior in a way, because then we'll be out of existence and we won't be doing that again. So it's not really a corrective measure. But what I'm talking about is, if immoral behavior is created, false behavior is created, we have to be the ones to change our behavior to not create that into reality. Or if something's already done, someone can apply consequences as a way to teach us that, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And, if you do that, I'm going to do this back to you. So it's a learning mechanism of, if you don't want it done to another, well, if you don't want it done to you, don't do it to others. So then that promotes the reciprocity, the golden rule of not having things done to you because you're not doing them to others. It's not a guarantee, but it's a good way to base your life on, so that it promotes that reciprocity of goodwill towards others. So the falsity we create is up to us to correct, and we can keep doing it to our own detriment. And does the universe look at morality, right versus wrong behavior, then judge or reward us based on our behavior? In a way, you could argue for it, but my point is, I'm saying that we're the ones who are responsible for our behavior, and there's not going to be a law that's going to come in and fix things for us. We have to be the ones to fix it. We have to have the courage to act to make things happen, and be they evil or good. That's why the dark occultists, as Passio explains, they have courage, and that just means that they're acting. And when you create actions, things happen as a result of your actions. So if you're not courageous enough to act, well, then the action's not going to come into existence, and therefore you're not going to affect existence, and things aren't going to change in existence. So we have to have the courage to act. The universe allows evil to be created because it allows all actions. All actions are permitted. It doesn't mean that they're right, but they are permitted. So that's why the free will, the universe already allows the evil actions to be created, and the free will has the choice to create them or not. And when they are created, it's up to other free wills to counterbalance that. So because it's possible for free will to create immorality, the direct negative karmic consequences for immorality also comes from free will. Free will has to choose what to create and how to respond to what others create. We are doing this to ourselves in the aggregate as a whole by collectively allowing immorality. If it was a law of the universe doing it to us, it would mean that we aren't doing it to ourselves. And it would mean that we wouldn't be responsible for it. And this also implies a denial of free will if you accept that position. That's all I got.
I'll jump in then. That hard act to follow, Chris. So I talked about, we done a question in the Telegram group about defining free will, and part of my response was talking about, I said that free will isn't truly free when, I think I used the words deception, coercion and manipulation are present. I don't know if technically that's true, because the people who are being manipulated they're still enacting their free will. They just don't know that they're being coerced or deceived or manipulated. And I followed that up by saying that's where the responsibility part kind of is relevant with regards to free will when you talk about free will. And the responsibility, I think, is to get to understand as much as you can, get your grammar in order about the environment that you live in and the environment within yourself. In a way, doing that, it enables you to be aware of said coercion, deception, manipulation. But that discovery process of your environment and yourself, it brings in to your psyche a lot of what Chris was just talking about with regards to cause and effect, which puts a responsibility. It kind of makes it essential. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to use essential to use your free will in a moral way, because you are now at a point where you understand that the actions you take do have repercussions. So to me, that brings in that responsibility aspect of it, because what comes along with that, discovering the world around you and discovering what's going on within yourself, you go down a road it's very involved, and we've all done it, and we've all discovered things like natural law and objective morality, objective truth, all stuff we've talked about on the show. So then you realise that your free will has an impact on everybody else, you know, and that's where the moral aspect comes in, to use it correctly. And to me, using your free will correctly is to use it in line with natural law, basically. Kind of always comes back to natural law, doesn't it? I guess it's why we're called Europa natural law. So then it becomes a bit more of a essential part of life, as Nemo said at the start, so that everybody can, so it benefits everybody involved. And I suppose the goal is to get everybody to understand these things and everybody to do it together. And hopefully one day that will come. So you kind of got a choice there, haven't you? By not doing that, you're kind of at the mercy of the controllers who are manipulating it. And you're going to blindly go down materialism, blindly go down, you know, I don't know, hedonism, getting caught up in the lies of politics, or politricks, as I heard Derek call it recently. It's quite a good one. And getting your mind caught in a box with all sorts of religions and stuff like that. Or you could realise that's happening and take that responsibility on board and keep it in line with natural law and objective truth and work towards making a better place for everybody to live, and try and propagate that knowledge to everybody so we all move towards the goal, which is freedom for all, really. But I'm running out of steam a little bit, guys, so I'll hand it over to somebody else if anybody wants to pick up on that.
Yeah, buddy. Yvonne, Oscar?
I'll let Oscar go. Oscar, do you want to go?
You're muted, bro.
Oh no, still.
We'll have to come back to you. Not sure what the issue is.
Hello, Yvonne.
Okay, all right. Okay, fair enough.
What's going on?
Yeah, I kind of went down a different route today because I knew everyone would explain what free will is very well. So I didn't want to kind of repeat. I just went down the road of questioning how free will and willpower kind of relate to each other, and how my conclusion was obviously that free will is like your first thought before you put that into action, and that's where the free will comes in. That is you using that will to put it actually into action, because you can think things, but I know thought can have an effect, but the majority of the time it's our actions that are having a effect. They're like the physical manifestation that other people can pick up on or see the results of. And so, yeah, I kind of went down the road of investigating will more than free will or willpower. And I started really questioning, like, where does it come from? Where does will come from? Where, it's kind of an unseen thing. It's like an etheric energy. And I started looking into the origins of the word, and it came up in the Germanic and the Old English, and it came up with both of them. It used the word wish to relate to the word will, and it also used the word, it came up 2 times, well. And then I started thinking of wishing wells. And I know it may seem like I'm going off course, but I'm kind of not. And it made me think of, like, why did people used to throw coins into the wishing well? And it went back to sort of Celtic and Germanic ancient mythology, that obviously water has such a life-giving like force. It keeps everything alive. And then I started thinking, about the connection to water. I know I've gone on about the Chinese medicine side of things and the 5 elements. Like, water is the energy that relates to willpower. But on the flip side, it also relates to fear as well. So we can be driven by our fear, or we can be driven by the generative principle. So they both can have a like counteracting effect. And then I started thinking of people in films and also in history that have actually fallen down wells, and Batman being one of them. Batman fell down a well, but it was a dry well. So there was no water in it. There was no life force. And that's where he got the energy from. It was a bats eating him. And that was, so his main thing, he was driven by fear. That's what gave him his power. He was driven by fear. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but what I was trying to just portray to you is I think will is very much connected to, water. And I'll go on about it more later if it comes up, but I just wanted to tell that little story. Oscar, are you back on?
I think my mic should be working now.
Yeah, buddy. Great story, Yvonne, by the way.
Yeah. Am I also doing a buzz thing now? I'm just hearing like I'm hearing like a noise. Anyway, free will. I'll be happy to just give a definition that I found on Wikipedia. Wikipedia is cool for that sometimes, just to get like a brief description of something. And yeah, I think it's a really good definition. I just from the top of my head, I think it was something like that. It's the ability or capacity to choose between different possible courses of actions, and I think that's a really well working definition. Of course, one could also mean other things. I don't know what's happening with my headphones. I'm just
No, you've gone. You've disappeared. What happened?
Yeah, you cut your audio off, brother.
Unclick your click. You click something and it went away.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, while you figure that out, Oscar. No, we're still not hearing you. I don't know what happened. I'll just come in a bit left field, but this is something from. Is he back?
I don't know. Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carry on.
Well, I think if I could share one thing about I think the importance of accepting free will and the consequence that comes with it is that suddenly everything every choice we take has meaning, and that's simple choices such as like who are we going to spend time with, what information are we going to put our attention to, or like what's the quality of the information that we program ourselves with, or that we occupy our minds with. I think that's at the thought level a place where free will is really important. Like if you look at the trivium method, you have the first step, which is the input, which is about the reception of information, the aggregation of it, the collection of information, right? And it's a choice people make of what approach they're going to take. Are they going to take the approach of collecting as much information as possible without prejudging it from as many different sources as possible? And that's a choice because everyone has biases. Everyone has preconceived narratives, if you will, and to choose to kind of say, well, maybe there's more to reality than just what I believe. That's a choice. It requires some willpower, because it can be quite uncomfortable. And then also the choice to process information. That's, I think, also where free will comes in. Are we gonna spend our time perfecting our ability to or refining our ability to process information? Are we going to process it in a way so that we, as much as possible, don't commit logical fallacies? Are we going to use our energy to kind of look at our own arguments? And that's kind of what I've been doing this past week, because I knew this topic was coming up, is looking at the arguments for the existence of free will, and also looking at the arguments against it. And I've tried, even though I have a bias, I think that free will exists. I've kind of tried to be fair for the arguments against free will, and look at why people would argue against it, and I found that really valuable. So it's like this was like a specific example, but the general thing would be to kind of look at arguments that are against one's own way of one's own argument, and see what of it is actually makes sense, and also try to look at one's own and say, is there something here that actually doesn't really make a lot of sense, or is kind of fallacious? And then, yeah, of course, at the end, it's all about action. It's all about what we do in the world, and that's obviously connected with free will, because we have our will to take different courses of action, but whether or not it's conscious or not, I think, is also where people. This is another part of it, but yeah, I think conscious will is something I thought would be worth defining, because how can we say we have free will if a lot of our choices are made from an unconscious place, or are made from a place where it's not coming from I've examined every decision and now I'm taking this choice. It's actually more coming like it's after we've taken the choice, we realize, oh, I'm choosing this. It's, or like, maybe I shouldn't pretend to know that much about the decision making process, but but that is it's an interesting conversation, and I, again, as I said, I personally lean towards that we do have free will, even though I have to admit a lot of actions do come from unconsciousness. So I think there's a distinction to be made there between freedom of choice in the sense that one can inform oneself and evaluate different like standards, or like what's going to happen if I take this course of action, and what's going to happen if I don't, and then make a decision. I think that's free will. But there's also unconscious choices, and a lot of, maybe the majority of our choices are unconscious, and you could say that then that's not freedom of choice, but I still think it is freedom of choice. It's just not to the conscious level, and that's where I think we have to be honest when we say freedom of choice. It doesn't mean that we're like hyper conscious. We know we're examining every course of our action, and yeah, I think that's kind of what I wanted to say for now.
Oscar, can I come in on what you were just talking about there? I was thinking a similar question, so possibly try to reframe the question you just asked about unconscious decision making. But quite a few of us have talked about the fact that free will can be manipulated by outside influences, nefarious outside influences. So this is on your question, Oscar. And there's lots of people having that happen to them. The majority of people are having that happen to them. Okay, and they're being pulled from pillar to post and socially engineered because of it, and all the rest of it, all the things we've talked about before. So if that person isn't aware that that is happening to them, and in essence has had their will hijacked in that way, is it a stretch to say that person has not got free will? I'm just flinging it out there. I don't know the answer to that. I just wondered what other people thought of that. It's kind of like the question you asked.
I think when we're saying that someone does not have free will, we're saying that they don't have the ability to choose between different courses of action. And I hope I'm not screaming into the microphone, but it's because my headphones are super loud. I don't know what the fuck is happening. Can you hear that? That's insane. I think my headphones are broken. But yeah, I mean, not having freedom of will would be to be coerced, would be that someone had taken away from one's ability to sorry, those headphones are killing me. What is happening? Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. I'll just let someone else answer too.
Well, I just wrote this down when, Oscar, you were talking about it. I mean, this is why they do mind control. And it's taking people away from exercising their free will choice and giving people the illusion of a free will choice as well. Like this is why they manipulate these laws, right? And we have to understand the manipulations and realize, like, hey, like, I don't want to choose between Coke or Pepsi. I want something different, something non-toxic without a bunch of fucking bullshit sugar, whatever the hell, right? And you can take that to, your political parties and whatever the hell, right? We're given the illusion that, oh, these are the choices to lead the nation into the right direction, apparently. But even if, a lot of people these days are saying, like, well, I guess I got to choose between the lesser of two evils or some shit like that. Like, that's not a fucking choice, That's not a conscious human being exercising their free will choice to not be governed by a single fucking soul above them, because, that's against cosmic law, right? So, yeah, I want to send it back to Nemo because, it's respect the order and all that shit. Turntables, man.
I was going to say, yeah, about this question of freedom, how free someone is. I mean, I guess that's to do with maturity, really, because we all have the opportunity to mature, and to grow and to become free and to use our will. to do so. And this is the thing. I think there's this meeting between freedom and will. When I was thinking about this and writing in the group, you know, and it was real like a stretch of the mind to really sort of clarify what free will kind of means for me. And I don't think you know, and I could have carried on. I am carrying on thinking about it. But it occurred to me that freedom without will is meaningless, because it just means you're just blowing around in the wind. So you're not really free. And will without freedom is meaningless, because again, you can't, you know, so they're actually like completely kind of intertwined. They're sort of two sides of the same present moment. You know, there's a present moment reality. You know, that everything in every moment you have the opportunity to choose what you do, to choose your next word, to choose your next action, to choose to a degree your next thought, you know, in your next response, and engage with your ability to respond to the world as it presents itself. So that's innate, you know. The response ability is innate. The ability to respond is immutable. Everyone has that, and that is really the root of free will and the root of freedom. So yes, there's conditioning and you know, all of this kind of misdirection and delusion, but that doesn't actually remove the essence of freedom from the individual, I would argue. And in in Buddhism, they talk about 10 realms of experience, which are and they sort of go like hierarchically from hell, hunger, animality, anger, humanity, tranquility, learning, realization, bodhisattva, and Buddhahood. And as I understand that kind of system of thought, you're sort of always within one of these realms, but the lower realms are sort of, they don't require will, basically. So if you don't engage your will and your ability to be free, you know, engage with your ability to respond to reality, then you were going to constantly go around in the lower 6 realms, from hell to tranquility. You'll always be just swimming from one, and they kind of like each one leads to the other. So you might have a moment of you know, tranquility, and then that will be, or that's also, I think, also called like bliss. You know, it's kind of like when you like something you've achieved something, whatever, and then but then you'll kind of dip down if you don't kind of engage with basically learning. The next 2 realms are learning and realization. So that's where you have to actually say, okay, I'm going to roll my sleeves up. I am actually going to find out what's going on. I'm actually going to question what I'm being told. I'm actually going to learn for myself. You know, I'm going to look at this reality anew, you know, and try something different, see how I can be my best self, you know, do something positive with this situation. And what does that actually mean? What is positive? You know, so that's a kind of that's, I think, a great perspective actually from Buddhism. You know, this idea that your karma will just keep you looping around in these lower realms of sort of conditioned response and animalistic behavior, basically, until you actually engage and say, I'm going to learn. I want to learn. And that's that freedom. Everyone possesses that freedom to do that.
That's that hermit card in the tarot, right?
Yeah, I guess it would be. Yeah.
And I suppose, Nemo, those lower realms that you're talking about and those states of mind kind of goes into what Oscar was talking about, Tommy and Derek a little bit about, like unconsciously going about, like the robotic. You're just doing. You're not actually. It seems like you're not using your free will, but I see it as you guys were talking that even the people that are not consciously aware of the effects of free will, they are very much, I think, using their free will for sure, because they're still having an effect. They're still creating that cycle that you're talking about, Nemo.
Yeah, because it's free will to keep the blinkers on is a choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that.
Great answers, by the way, to that question. That was really good.
I could add, as Derek pointed out, it was pretty much the answer. You have it's whether you exercise it, because the capacity is always there. So you are inherently born. You have a life. You have free will. You can't exist as a human and not have free will. I guess you could be born and then your consciousness isn't there, and then you're just a body, but then you're like essentially just a plant or just a body. So I don't know how that would happen, but people go into like vegetative states or they have brain damage. So then consciousness ceases to function and there's no like brain activity, and they're only kept alive by machines. So the body can keep being fed like a plant is fed, and then it can keep existing and the cells keep doing their job. But the cells don't have the free will. So the capacity is there, and it's like Oscar mentioned related to the trivium. Well, how does the social engineering happen? How do people have their free wills hijacked? Because that's what the whole game is that as a master and a slave, is that the master says, here's my will and your will become my will. And that's what they've given people. They've given people the predator mindset. So the mindset that they have, they want people to have a diluted form of it so that they accept that modality as a way of life. So they give the people the predator mindset, and then social Darwinism, survival of the fittest, dog eat dog, all that bullshit. That becomes what people accept and what they tolerate and what they try to emulate. But that's all based on the inherent functionality of a human being, which is input, grammar, knowledge, and then the understanding and the processing. So if you're not processing it and you're just letting it impact you, or you're accepting it, you're being manipulated by it, well, then that's the social engineering, that's the mind control, that's the deception. And then the output is the behaviors in consequence of that that's going to form and shape that your inner constitution, your inner reality, in the distinct from the outer reality. Well, the inner reality is unique to each one of us, and we take in information from that outer reality, and people can put out words, they can put out audio and video and influence us from that outer reality because we take in that information. So then our free will, we can just decide that, oh, that sounds like a good idea, I'm going to do this, I'm going to live that way. And in regards to coercion, well, as soon as you have coercion, well, that's someone saying, so for the example of, someone shows up on the street, they pull out a knife and they say, give me your money. They don't have to say, give me your money or I'm going to stab you. That's already implied in the knife. It's already an implication of them pulling out the knife, and they say, give me your money. You don't have to say, well, let's have a philosophical discussion about this. You're pulling out that knife. Does that mean that you're going to stab me, or are you just showing me your knife by happenstance and it has nothing to do with it, and you're just making a request for my money? And if I say no, then everything's fine. No, that's not what the implication is. The implication is that you pull out the knife and it's like, give me your money or I'm going to stab you. So like, well, do you want to get stabbed just for like some things in your wallet? Or do you want to like say, okay, I'm going to agree to give you this property of mine that you don't have a right to, but I value my life more than whatever's in my wallet. Or you could pull out your gun and shoot them, and you could take that risk. That's up to you to engage in the right of self-defense. But you got to weigh those risks. Might be practical to not do it. So you give them whatever's in your wallet, and they did violate you. They violated your free will, right? Because you did not consent to it. The only reason you consented to give them the money, it wasn't in a situation free of a violation of a threat is a violation that you're going to hurt someone. So because they say, give me your money, you're not like, okay, here's my money. And then there you go. Oh, well, there was no immorality there. No, the immorality is that they pulled out a knife. And if you don't do it, well, they're going to do even greater violence to you than the initial violence of the coercion to hand over a form of your property, or else they're going to do greater violence. So as soon as you have the coercion, the aspect of voluntary interaction is gone, because everything is voluntary as long as property rights are being respected, and as soon as they're being violated, there is no voluntary. So some people can make the argument that nothing's involuntary. The whole slavery system is voluntary in a sense, yes, because we're accepting it, and part of that is the mind control and the social engineering, because they give us this idea and people are like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, yeah, let's enslave ourselves. They don't view it that way, but that's the conclusion. But yeah, they're like, yay, government, woo, of course we need government, and we get our the control system. But it's not voluntary, because, well, give us the tax money, and then, well, if you don't, then this is going to happen to you. We're going to come we're going to fine you, and then if you don't pay your fines, well, then we're going to come seize your other property. And then that's what property tax is. If you don't pay your property tax, well, they're just going to auction off your house. Your municipality is just going to auction off your house, and then they're going to come with the order followers, the goons are going to come and take you out of your house, because, oh, well, guess what? Your house has been auctioned off and someone else bought it, so it's not yours anymore. And it's theirs as long as they pay the property tax. But so if they don't pay the property tax, the same thing will happen to them. But that's all the coercion, that's all the violence inherent in the system. So none of it is actually voluntary, because the only time something is actually voluntary, in true voluntarism aspect, is when there is no coercion. And the reason they get away with it is because all of us are like looking at ourselves as an island, and we're not in moral unison acting together to fight back and put a stop to it. And if we did that, we could put a stop to it. But when there's like 10,000 of the goons, and then 10 million of people who support the goons, and 10 million people who support the control system and the enslavement system and view it as morally legitimate, well, you acting on your own, you're not going to get very far. And you can stand in your rights, and you'll be squashed like a bug. So again, we come back to the practicality aspect of, yeah, okay, you can stand in the principles, and you're not going to pay your property tax, you're not going to do this, you're not going to go along with it, and then see where your life ends up. It won't be too good if you want to have a home, or if you don't want to have a home, you just want to live in a car and move around all the time, well, then you can do that. But that's up to someone's choice. So you have to make compromises in order to exist and have a certain standard of living in the way we currently live. And until a certain amount of people get it and are willing to morally unite, that's the way of life that we're going to continue to have until there's enough of a quantity of people, the numbers, that can act together in order to fight and make the reality a different way. Because you alone changing your behavior isn't going to change how everyone else changes it. Everyone else has to go along with a change, and it could be just a percentage of the population that says we're going to do it differently, and then everyone's like, okay, I'll go along with it, I guess I'll be more moral now. Instead of being more immoral, they'll be completely oblivious. But it requires a certain amount of people to initiate the change, and then if everyone else isn't like at the same level of consciousness, but they go along with it, well, then they're going to go along with it, and that overall aggregate is going to change in alignment with that new modality of life.
Word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. I like moral unison. That's a nice thing to contemplate. And you mentioned the goons. So I'm just going to bring this in now, because that's funnily enough the subject we're going to be talking about next week. I've put up the thumbnail there, Derek, if you want to show that. But this is our topic for next week: order followers, the goons. And that's a big topic in itself. But yeah, anyway, that's for next week, so look out for that. But sorry, just wanted to chuck that in because it was relevant. But carry on, whoever wanted to come in. And we're just reaching an hour, so let's just kind of
Yeah,
work
I think
towards-
this is a good time to address any questions. I've been looking in the comment section, and I haven't really seen anyone ask anything. But I thought this would be a good time in the show, also in the future, to address any questions. So remember, people, that if you have anything you want to ask, it's possible to do so in the comment section. I'd like to kind of re-emphasize what you've been saying, Chris, about first in the first round. You spoke about how any condition that we want to change requires free will, and no laws are going to change a condition. And by that, I think you mean no man-made laws, correct?
No, I was saying laws of the universe.
Oh, okay.
So, what law of the universe is going to end our enslavement?
Well, I would say that through our free will, we can work together with the law. So the law by
Yeah,
itself
but the
is
laws,
not
that's
going
my
to do
point,
it.
is the laws themselves, they're not going to do
It's not
anything
going to do
for
it.
us. They're just there, and
But
we
we need-
interact in them, and they allow certain outcomes to come about, but it's the free will, the behavior that's created is what's causing it. So the cause of the immorality, there's no laws in the universe that are going to be like, oh, you created more immorality in the slave system. Well, here I come to fight. I'm gonna put you back into freedom. No, that's us that are doing it. So we're the only ones that can stop it.
Word. But we have to understand the law in order for us to understand how to create that condition, right? And also another thing that you spoke of was this whole thing of what is it that makes that removes the capacity of an individual to have to choose, to have freedom of choice. You're saying everyone has free will. What is it that inhibits people from that? And then to kind of use that example you brought up with the knife. Well, in a way, in this society or this way of organizing society that we have currently, we've all kind of been given an invisible knife. We've all been given the ability to support order followers in coercing us. So there is that, you could say that there's the free will aspect that we're choosing to as you were saying before, like that, where it's a voluntary condition. We've said, and in the aggregate, this is what we want by acting in a certain way, and then we get the result. But there's also that aspect of not having, not having complete free will, in the sense. Well, we have free will, but there's the excuse, right? There's the fear of coercion. There's the fear of violence, the threat being made, and that's at least an argument I've encountered a lot. Is, well, I have to focus on money, or I'm too tired after working at the job, and I think those are fair reasons to say that people are tired and stuff, but it does not actually remove their freedom of choice, the fact that they're so focused on survival. So I thought that was also kind of something we might talk about next week when we speak about order followers, because that's something they use as well as an excuse for saying, well, I'm just doing my job, right? I need to provide for my family. I have to prioritize my own survival and my family's survival, and then that comes before respect, or before taking that look and saying, wait, am I actually aligning my will with morality or immorality here?
Yeah, so it all comes back to, like, you asking the question, what stops people from being conscious of their free will? I think it does come back to fear. And I can't help but think Chris was telling the story about the knife situation. I just have to tell you a little story. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke to my friend, and she had a terrible day. She was in an accident on a London bus, and this was like 12 o'clock at night, and she'd been working at her daughter's house all day, helping her move, etc. So she'd come off the bus, and then she finally got to London Underground, and outside someone approached her with a knife and said, give me your fucking phone or whatever. And she had such a bad day. Her response wasn't fear. It was, do you know what kind of day I've had? And she went blah, 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 and went on and on and on about the rotten day she had. So basically, she bored the mugger to death. And then he ended up walking away. Just thought I'd tell you that story.
That's a good tactic. Everyone remember that. Bore them to death.
That's amazing. But I love the that it's this day, this kind of cause, this weird like bad cause becomes like a good cause. You know, that's kind of, there's something kind of magical in that. Like it transforms. You know, like it, without that bad day, she would have gone straight to fear. But it didn't. She didn't do that because of the circumstances. It's kind of interesting.
She didn't really realise what was going on. I think she's a real big talker, and she just went on and on to tell everyone her old life story.
Right.
And in the end, she turned around and said, "What do you actually want anyway?" And he went, "Oh, I just wanted a can of Coke." She went, "I'll go and fucking buy you one then." And she went and bought him a can of Coke, and it was all fine.
Yeah. Wow. A knife to choose.
No Pepsi?
You wielding a knife to choose between Pepsi and Coke. I like, just going back a little bit. I love Nick Hayes is. I don't know if he's still there, but he put a comment up on coming from somewhere that said you can't wake up someone who's pretending to be asleep, which I thought was very interesting, brilliant, really, in terms of like what we were talking about earlier about, you know, it's a choice to keep the blinkers on, and to whether you grow up, whether you say you're intending to grow up, you know, whether you actually want to grow up. It's not to say that you have to do it like that, you know, or that it's possible to do it like that, or maybe in the current world it's not really possible because everything's so messed up, but we can at least say we're aiming towards that. So any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'll come in. That question I asked earlier, that idea of you've had your will co-opted. Is it a stretch to say you therefore then don't have free will? Now that is the take that the controllers want people to think. And it was interesting, some of the stuff that Oscar put up on the chat that highlighted that, which is why I asked that question, just to get you answering it, which you all did in a masterful way. It was brilliant. So that in itself, that way of thinking is what they're trying to propagate amongst us all. And it was hard to watch, but your man Harari, what's his first name? Remember that one you put up, Oscar, the guy from the world?
Yuval. I thought you were speaking about Viktor Frankl. He was all about like that you still have the freedom of will when you. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, I was just pointing out your man Harari. That was in that video you put up. That was exactly what he was trying to propagate in that video. He wanted people to believe that they didn't have free will. And it's such a subtle trap for people to fall into listening to that, because he comes like, obviously he's down with the propaganda and stuff like that. And the one you put up with the Forrest Gump, the guy, the black pill guy, and he just totally showed that coming through. And the propaganda in that film as well. But it was great to hear your answers on that. It was perfect, man. Brilliant answers.
I have to agree with one of the people who have commented that this show does feel very short, which also makes it nice and compact. But it also could be cool to prolong it a bit more, because I always feel like here at the after 1 hour, I'm trying to get like a couple more things in, you know. And one of the things I'd like to share is that the prayer of serenity people probably know it. It's also used. Well, it's kind of a different version of the one that I like. The one that's used in these Alcoholic Anonymous meetings. The one I like is, God, give us the serenity, or like the grace to accept that which cannot be changed, and the courage to change that which should be changed, that which should not be accepted, and then also the wisdom to be able to differentiate, to distinguish in between. And I thought also, when you were speaking earlier before about the different realms, I think it was it in Hinduism or Buddhism, Nemo?
They may well originate in Hinduism. I don't know, but I came across them from Buddhism.
From Buddhism, okay. Well, we were speaking about like that. There's this place of. Also, you touched upon that, Yvonne. That there's this place before making a choice where we're thinking, or we're looking for it, and we also brought up the tarot card of the hermit, as in like seeking. So there's kind of like that respect before the choice, and that kind of leads also up to the strength card or the courage card, right? So the more, I feel like the more I have self-respect, and I do things that align with what I feel is the right thing, and I train my willpower, the more courage I have, that kind of does like a loop, and I get more respect, and I feel more strong, if you will. And I think that's one of the beautiful things in this world, is that there are actually, kind of teased the next week, there are actually order followers who, whether they be teachers or nurses, doctors, military, police, there's the whole shebang, right? There are these people who actually make the choice through, because they've done enough shadow work, to say, fuck this, I'm out of here, or I'm gonna find a way to do what I say that I want to do, help these people, because hey, their intentions might be sweet and all, but the right intention means that you're gonna do it in a way where it actually results in that. If I say I want to help educate children, but I end up indoctrinating them and fucking them up mentally and shaming them all, then I have to lie to myself. I have to not have enough respect if I continue doing that. So I'm ranting here. I'm just saying it's a beautiful thing. People actually choose to own their free will, even though that taking responsibility and seeing, whoa, this means that I'm a piece of crap, a piece of shit, is also, wait, I have the power to change things up.
Yeah, I'll end my concluding thoughts right after. Well done, well said, Oscar. Because yeah, I had it written down like with the exclamation point at the end. Like it is a gift in a sense, if you will. Like if you treat it like like this free will choice in life, in this universe that we have. If you treat it as a sacred, just existence, then I think you're going to be in a good place and be on that proper path. Unlike, certain things that are kind of like, that are denying free will, kind of what I alluded to in the beginning, but kind of like the atheist or the determinist and whatever, that their decrees and gods, said that, like, no, your life is determined and you're gonna go that with their fucking fairy tales and whatever the fuck, and like, yes, the followers of those faiths have the free will choice to believe in whatever the fuck they fucking want to, as long as they're not causing harm. Yet, if you really want to take things further, you just see religare as tying back humanity from forward fucking progress. So why the fuck do we even fucking need this shit, and why do I have to fucking tolerate it sometimes? And I guess we do have the free will to ignore that, ostensible side of society, and we have, just like, as well as like people have the free will to ignore whatever the fuck, but again, like, it's not without consequence. So if folks really are concerned and like care about themselves, then they're gonna try to make the right choices and use their free will choice to focus on what matters, because what we do in this life matters, contrary to what the fuck other people want us to believe, right? Unfortunately. But yeah, that's why we take back our will force. We recalibrate and reinforce and strengthen our inner constitution, that is wielding our willpower and will force, if you will. And there's ways to do this, kind of like how people talk about raising their frequency and all this stuff, eating well, and just having a good mental train of thought. So yeah, what tracks are you riding on, right? Take it back to mentalism. That's where it matters. And yeah, that's really great what you mentioned with that, Yvonne. And yeah, that's all I got to bring up, because yeah, it matters. Keeping your heart as light as a feather, exercising your free will properly, and not passing the buck off to someone else in regards to your responsibility and your free will choice, right? So yeah, take it as a gift and be present with it.
Yeah, and why there are the majority at the moment not being consciously aware of the effects of their free will actions. It is going to feel like you are, I'm bringing it back to the water, going against the tide in enacting your right free will action. And yeah, it does feel like you're going up against the tide. But yeah, we have to. And yeah, I've got nothing more to say. I think there's been plenty said this evening, and I'm really looking forward to next week's Order followers, because I think it does go on very well after the free will. I'm going to leave it at that, guys.
That's that courage, isn't it, Yvonne, you were talking about earlier, to go against the tide. I think that has to be cultivated.
Well, it's the other side, the flip side of fear, isn't it? It's the other side of the coin.
Yeah, and I think that people are so conditioned to live in fear, as you can see by giving up their freedoms for safety. It's hard to do that switch around, isn't it, for people? And it's something you have to work on. Definitely, you have to nurture it and cultivate it and bring it along with you. So, guys, I've not been on the show yet in the chat. Come on the show and have your say.
Yeah, and it does take effort, Tommy. Like last week, I spent I was trying to get my logo set up for my channel, and I set to do it on the Monday morning. And what came through the door? A letter from a parking fine from years ago. Like the Matrix comes in straight away. So I had to deal with it, because obviously they're threatening bailiffs, etc. And then that can stimulate fear. But in order to get past that fear, you have to put in effort. And it took me all week to sort of read and research the law. And I went round it and I thought, oh, I could go up against it and use their law. And then I thought, what a fucking waste of energy. It's actually draining my energy doing this. So in the end, I comprised a letter that's I know it will put a complete and utter stop, because I've incorporated natural law, and I've put it strongly across that is what I stand under. I don't stand under any of their. And because I really truly felt that in my heart, nothing. They can come and try and put me in prison. They can come and do what they want. I don't really care. I know in my heart that I've done the work to get that bit of sovereignty back within myself. but it does take graft, and that's what they've got a choice. They either put that effort in or carry on.
What's your channel going to be called, Yvonne? Oh, you've went quiet.
The channel's going to be called the 3 R's, as in FREE. And the R's are going to be, it's realize, regeneration, realign. So it's going to be that.
Super.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, it should be up and running. I'd say give it 2 weeks. I've just finished the logo and I've got the domain name. So yeah, we're getting there.
Chris, did you have any last thoughts?
No, all good.
Cool. Okay, I will say a couple more things. Yeah, I think people do abandon beliefs all the time, and you know that's where free will is. That's a great kind of like strengthening thing that people can do, is like say, oh look, this I believe this isn't necessarily true, it's just what I believe, what I've been led to believe. I can abandon it, and that it strengthens that muscle of like, oh, I can actually search, I can actually let go of something that I just believe, you know. That's kind of interesting. A couple of other quick things. You mentioned that Yuval Harari thing where he's talking about, he's basically what he's saying in that he's talking about how AI is at such a level, and you know, this is the thing, you know, we allegedly, you know, we all have a digital twin in the digital realm, and they can predict, you know, what you would do because your twin would do that, blah 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 blah. So it's all like but what it really amounts to is this it's just a new version of what, as you were kind of saying, Tommy, it's like in the past it would have been, you know, oh God, that was how it would have been put. Oh well, God decrees everything, you know, it's the will of God that you are a slave or a serf, you know, or you're being shipped off to Australia or whatever it is, you know, it's all, everything's the will of God. And now it's just a different version of that. Now it's the will of AI, you know, it's just packaged in a different way, but it's exactly the same thing. And he is a priest of that new religion. It's absolutely religious mindset that's very, very clever, and it's focused on, you know, exactly the same thing, which is dismantling your own capacity to access your free will, or to access your will, you know, to be free. So I think those are that's a really, really worthwhile kind of really thinking about that, about these deterministic kind of thought forms that and the way that they're perpetuated and the way that they're changed according to the age and according to where people's mindsets and what people's worldview is. That's a kind of really interesting point, I think, to think about. It's not just a little thing that, you know, that's a really important thing to say, oh, AI can just predict what you're going to do, you know. It's like, it's totally disempowering, and deliberately so.
You know, that's a commentary on their will as well, isn't it? Because like this has been like, how many years have they been at this game, and they just constantly think of another way and another way and another way, another way. And people were talking about willpower. You know, if there's one thing you can learn from them, it's like that collective willpower is something that we as a sort of a freedom movement need to try and cultivate as well. I know that's a really hard thing to do, and we've talked about it before, but it just needs to be said. There's just too much division, I think. That is one thing we lack, is that collective willpower that they've got.
I think we're doing pretty well in Europa natural law. We seem to come together a lot, so we're doing well. keep going. Yeah, Tommy, what's your channel? You're just about to launch yours as well, aren't you?
Yeah, my channel's called The Creation of Care, which is obviously a take on the cremation of care. I'm just trying to invert in the way they invert. My channel's actually just ready for content. I've got my YouTube channel set up and logos there, banners there, introductions there. So content next, guys.
Cool. Yeah, just one last thing that I came up while someone else was talking. I can't remember who it was now, but it was this thing of I just thought I wanted to just say this thing, which I don't, which is Mark advises it. Mark Passio says this is a great way to do shadow work, and it seems like such a it just seems really relevant here, which is the question: why am I not doing what I say I want to be doing? You know, that is a really great way to, I think, in asking yourself that question, you know, sincerely and really thinking about it is a really great way to think about, well, I am free. I do have a will. What am I doing with it? How am I engaging it? So I just thought I'd finish with that. Okay, so thanks everyone. That's been great. Lots of comments all over the place, and that's good. Hopefully, yeah, we will. I don't know. We'll see. Sorry that I said that they were going to be on the screen and they weren't. We'll see. Maybe we can work that out. There's technical stuff going on. And do remember the Funnel Freedom Under Natural Law conference coming up on the 22nd and 23rd of February. Do put those dates in your diary. That's going to be a lot of great content. And we'll be here next week. There's the link there for that. Thanks, Derek. Yeah, we'll be here next week discussing order followers, which is a great follow-on topic from this. So thanks, everyone, and see you next time on Europa Natural Law.
Bye-bye. And remember, you can tune in Thursday for the informal chat as well.
Cheers. See you.
Bye-bye.